Good morning, TK. Happy Wednesday. I hope you're having a great week so far. I miss you guys. I hope you're doing really well at home. Your work has been super good this week, so let's keep it up by diving into some reading. Today we have two objectives. We're going to be going over pages 7 and 8, activity pages 7 and 8. And so we have two objectives for these pages. These pages are a little bit different. We are going to be cutting and we're going to be making some patterns. So make sure that you're definitely following along with our directions. Let's go over our objective. Objective is what we are going to learn. I can identify X shape. So we actually have kind of been talking about the letter X this week in phonics and handwriting, but we're not necessarily talking about the letter X. We're talking about when we make an X over something, like Xing something out. It's more of kind of like a shape. So we're going to be looking at that today. Our second objective is I can recognize and create patterns. So we are going to be seeing the shape of X. We're going to be cutting out some other shapes with it, and we are going to be making patterns with them and seeing what kind of patterns we can recognize and we can create. So let's go over to the screen and we'll get started. All right, TK, so here I am on activity page 7. For this page, you need to write your name at the top and then get out 3 crayons, orange, blue, and brown. On this page, we are going to be finding the 3 shapes that we have here. Remember that our 2 objectives for these pages are to identify the X shape and then also to make patterns. So for this page, we're going to be coloring in the shapes we see, and then we're going to cut them out. On the back of this page, for activity page 8, we're going to see some X shapes. So before we get to that, we're going to pause here, color in the 3 shapes. We have 2 squares and a rectangle, and then cut them out on the dotted lines. So pause here and do that. All right, so I colored in my 3 shapes here. So I am going to cut them out. I can't cut them out because I'm just looking at a screen, but you guys can cut along the dotted lines and you're going to end up with 2 squares and 1 rectangle. Let's turn the page to see what we're going to do next. On activity page 8 here, you're going to notice many different dots on this page. We are going to actually be coloring in our little triangles. See how they make little mini triangles? Those colored dots. But before we do that, there is one shape in the middle of each of the squares on this page. What shape is that? Remember, it's the one we're going to identify today. That is our X shape. That's our X shape. And we are going to trace it. I'm going to start with the one with the dotted lines. So I'm going to take my pencil and trace the X on the dotted lines. There is my X on the dotted lines. And now I'm going to do the same thing in all of the boxes on my page. So I'm going to do this one down here, trace my X on my dotted lines. Well, not quite dotted lines, but on my little light blue lines there. Do the same in this one up here. Nice straight lines. And then I have one more. Make my X. There we go. So I did my 4 X's. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to color in my triangles. And I'm going to use the colors that match the dots in each triangle. So you can pause here and you can color in your triangles. All right, so now I've colored in my triangles and I have a page that looks like this. I matched all of the colors, I drew my X's, and now I'm going to do one final cut. So at this point, you have this rectangle cut out and these 2 squares cut out. This bottom square here that has the green, blue, yellow, and red, this was the one that had the dotted lines. We are going to be cutting along the X. So you're going to take scissors and cut, and you should be left with 4 triangles. So now you should have 4 triangles, a square, and a rectangle. And your job now is to see what kind of patterns you can make with your shapes. Maybe you can make color patterns, maybe you can make shape patterns, up to you. So that's your job now. Remember, our second objective was to recognize and identify patterns. So go ahead and do that, and you guys are awesome, and I will talk to you later.